Peter and his campfire. Chapter 1. Peter's World. Peter was a young man who lived alone in the forest. He had long, dark hair and kind eyes. Peter's home was a small wooden cabin. It was old but strong. Peter didn't have many things. He had a bed, a chair, and some books. But his most important possession was his campfire. Every day, Peter built a fire outside his cabin. The fire was his only friend. Chapter 2. Morning Routine. Every morning, Peter woke up early. He went outside and took a deep breath of fresh air. Then, he started to build his fire. Peter collected small twigs and dry leaves. He put them in a pile. Then, he added bigger sticks. Peter was very careful. He wanted his fire to be just right. When the pile was ready, Peter lit the fire. He watched as the small flame grew bigger. The fire crackled and danced. Peter smiled. His day had begun. Chapter 3. Talking to the Fire. As the fire burned, Peter sat nearby. He liked to talk to the fire. Sometimes he told stories. Other times he sang songs. The fire always listened. "Good morning, fire," Peter would say. "How are you today?" The fire would crackle in response. Peter imagined it was saying good morning back to him. Peter told the fire about his dreams. He talked about the books he read. Sometimes he even shared his worries. The fire always seemed to understand. Chapter 4. Working Together. Peter and the fire worked together all day. When Peter cooked his meals, the fire helped him. Peter would put a pot of water over the fire to make tea. He would roast vegetables and fish on sticks over the flames. "Thank you, fire," Peter would say after each meal. The fire would glow brightly, as if it was happy to help. When Peter was cold, he sat close to the fire. Its warmth made him feel safe and comfortable. At night, the fire's light helped Peter read his books. Chapter 5. The Rainy Day. One day, it rained very hard. Peter couldn't build his fire outside. He felt very sad and lonely. Peter tried to read his books, but it wasn't the same without the fire. He looked out the window at the wet forest. He missed his friend. Then, Peter had an idea. He had a small fireplace inside his cabin. He had never used it before, but today was a good day to try. Chapter 6. The Indoor Fire. Peter carefully built a fire in the fireplace. It was smaller than his outside fire, but it was just as friendly. The cabin filled with warm light. Peter sat close to the fireplace. He felt happy again. "Hello, fire," he said. "I'm glad you could come inside today." The fire crackled softly, like it was saying me too. All day, Peter and the fire stayed inside. They listened to the rain together. Peter read his books out loud, and the fire flickered with each word. Chapter 7. Visitors in the Forest. One sunny day, Peter heard voices in the forest. He was surprised. He rarely saw other people. Peter went to look. with his fire burning behind him. Two hikers had lost their way. They looked tired and hungry. Peter invited them to rest by his fire. The hikers were amazed by Peter's fire. "It's so warm and welcoming," they said. Peter smiled proudly. He knew his fire was special. Chapter 8. Sharing Stories. Peter and the hikers sat around the fire. They shared food and stories. Peter told them about his life in the forest. The hikers told Peter about the big city they came from. As they talked, Peter realized something. He enjoyed talking to people, but he still felt closest to his fire. The fire danced and crackled like it was part of the conversation. When it was time for the hikers to leave, they thanked Peter. "Your fire is magic," they said. "It made us feel at home." Peter nodded. He knew exactly what they meant. Chapter 9. A New Understanding. After the hikers left, Peter sat by his fire. He thought about the day. He had enjoyed the company of the hikers, but he didn't feel lonely when they left. Peter looked at his fire. It burned steady and strong. He realized that the fire was more than just flames. It was warmth, light, and comfort. It was a listener and a helper. "You really are my best friend," Peter said to the fire. The fire glowed brightly, its flames reaching up as if to hug Peter. Epilogue. Peter's Choice. As time passed, Peter had more visitors. Some asked him to leave the forest and join them in the city, but Peter always said no. Peter knew that his place was in the forest with his fire. Together, they made a perfect team. Peter was never lonely because he always had his glowing, crackling companion. Every night, as Peter went to sleep, he would look at his fire. "Good night, my friend," he would say, and the fire would glow softly, watching over Peter until morning came again. Vocabulary list. Campfire, a fire built outdoors. Cabin, a small wooden house. Twigs, very small branches. Crackle, to make small sharp sounds. Fireplace, a place to make a fire inside a house. Flicker, to shine with an unsteady light. Hikers, people who walk long distances for fun. Flames, the bright parts of a fire. Glow, to shine with a soft, warm light. Companion, a friend who spends a lot of time with you. Simple grammar points. Simple present tense. Peter lives in the forest. Simple past tense. Peter built a fire. Present continuous. The fire is burning. Past continuous. Peter was talking to the fire. Simple future. Peter will cook his dinner. Comparative adjectives. The indoor fire was smaller than the outdoor fire. Superlative adjectives. The fire was Peter's best friend. Adverbs of frequency. Peter always talked to his fire. Prepositions of place. Peter sat by the fire. Conjunctions. Peter was alone, but he wasn't lonely.